I just wanted to say hi.
Hey, buddy. What are you
Hey.
doing?
We are going to pick up a play set for our children from my sister and brother-in-law's house.
Nice. Happy
Mm-hmm.
anniversary.
Thank you. I'm going to log off so that we don't capitalize the recording.
Yeah, it's great. Just a real quick question. Well, no, I shouldn't ask this if it's being recorded. I'll text you.
Okay. Bye.
It's nothing weird, but bye.
Oh, hey.
Hey, JB.
I went into the Zoom link and I'm like, no, we're doing Encircle now. Yeah,
Yeah, I just posted in Facebook uh the link again. Um, but we're I debated not doing that this week, but we got to make the jump sometime.
we do.
Um, and And so we're just going to make the jump. And it's
Yeah.
recorded and it's public, so people can still watch it even if they can't
Mhm.
join us live. But I am going to give it a few more minutes if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
How's your week going?
Good. Yeah.
Good, good, good.
And you?
I mean, not great.
Okay.
Stuff with my sister. She's
Right.
having some health things. So
Okay. Yeah. Continued
but
prayers for her and family.
thank you. I'm grateful to work somewhere where people aren't like, yeah, but your KPIs. They're like, oh, yeah, but be with your family.
Yeah. eh, eh, that's the truth. Hmm. Well, this topic is intriguing to me because I've waded in a little bit because I have probably 100 to 150 Facebook Live videos on my
Yeah.
yoga page. And what do I do with those? And do you download it in this format or that? And how do you, yeah, uploading them to
Yeah.
YouTube, which I know is not a quick task.
Right.
And, getting the content right and the title. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. The good news is that YouTube is easy once you get it set up.
All that said, I have uploaded just 2 videos to YouTube for
Yeah,
yoga purposes.
cool.
I'm no Adrian, Yoga with Adrian, right?
I don't know who that is.
You don't know Yoga with Adrian? Oh, look her up.
No.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
has millions of followers, so um, a nice spirit and very accessible. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Um, so that the recording's done and we can share it. Um, I do have slides, but I also am haunted by the reality that I studied the effectiveness of slides. And so while it's helpful for me to organize my thoughts in sharing it with you and whoever's watching this, we know that when you hear something and you read something at the same time, you retain and process less information because you're overloading the verbal processing centers of your brain. And so fear not, Jeff. You don't need to like take notes if there's something that seems worthwhile to take notes. I have really text heavy slides that I'll share as like a handout with this recording. So obviously what predicated this is this topic this week is that Facebook in its revolving door of policies announced like back in February, like, hey, we'll keep your lives for 30 days and then they're going away. And we're going to start them going away in 90 days. Um, and the way that they're going away is really strange. Um, Mother Ann came into my office and was like, the oldest ones are still there, the newest ones are what's gone. And so working through that. So if you have not yet gotten content of yours from Facebook that you want to be able to keep, leave the meeting, Jeff, and go do it now. Because there seems to be no rhyme or reason to the order in which the videos are being deleted. And once they're gone, they're gone. So my recommendation is to not be at the whim of Meta. That's my recommendation for a lot of things. But when it comes to live streaming, especially I'm thinking in this context of parishes and their weekly services, you don't want to have to keep up with so many changes. If you remember last year, it was you can't live stream in a group unless it's this big, or on a page unless you have this many followers. So at that time, I was working for the Diocese of Central New York. So we had follow back campaigns for our smaller parishes. trying to get people to follow other parishes in the diocese, because we know that live streaming services is a really important tool of evangelism. Our friends in the disability community, when COVID hit in March of 2020 and we all moved on so quickly, we moved online. And so really the agility of churches, and I worked for a university at that time, was a lot, but it was really impressive. And our friends in the disability community said, see, you could have been including us the whole time. And so if that were the only reason, which it's not, that is an important enough reason that I think continuing to live stream services is vital. I know sometimes for some parishes it can be discouraging when they're like, oh, only 1 or 2 people are there. Should we even keep doing this? And my answer is always yes, yes, yes. There may be only 1 or 2 people live, but I promise if you go back and look at the views later on, you're going to have more views. And if you pay attention to the notifications on those videos, people come back years later. It's a powerful evangelism tool, and it sends a really clear message that your parish wants to include everyone connected to it. That could mean your snowbirds when they go south, but they still want to be connected to your parish. It could be people who are recovering from surgery. It could be, a parent with kids that are they're just not. We all know that, right? There are some Sundays when the kids just, oh my God, no. And if you get to church, it's because you've yelled at them so many times and yelled at your partner and all kinds of things. And sometimes that doesn't feel that doesn't feel like coming to worship God. That doesn't feel like connecting with God. And maybe you just need a break and you need to go to church in your pajamas again. And that is okay. So I think that live streaming is essential for parishes, and essential for building community. And this Facebook forcing you to think about what the purpose of your life is and how long they stay is a really good opportunity to make the switch to what I think is a better platform for streaming, and that is YouTube. So, and Jeff, you can interrupt me at any time.
Sure. I have a devil's advocate thing here. I have a
Go for
friend
it.
who I worked with a few years back, and she, in a church context, is seeing that maybe, I mean, obviously there are folks who can't get to church for whatever reason, but her point was that some folks who could get to church but would just, I'm just going to stay at home and watch it, and not coming to church for, being together in the same room, the social interaction. So maybe she's seeing, and some churches are seeing, a decline in in-person attendance. So her recommendation was, don't live stream everything. And what you decide to post, maybe you don't live stream it, maybe you record it and then post it a couple of days later. What would you say about that?
I hear that, and I've heard that from a lot of people, and I understand that. One of the very first things when I started in Central New York, I did some calls with parishes. I was like, help me understand your context. What are you struggling with? I want to make sure that I'm being supportive in this position, and I don't want to assume that I know what you need. And they were like, people just aren't coming back to church. I was like, okay, say more words. And they're like, well, they're just watching online. I was like, all right, well, let's drill down. What, obviously, we believe in the importance of community. We believe that we were created by the same creator to be in relationship with a creator and with all of creation. And so those parts are important. But I don't think that, oh, look, our friend Barrett's joining us. Hi, Barrett.
Hi, team. Sorry I'm a little late.
All good.
No worries. We're super chill here. It's Friday brain. It's all of it.
No kidding.
Barrett, just responding to a devil's advocate, I am a strong proponent of churches live streaming. I think it's I think it's vital. And responding to the devil's advocate of like, okay, but people aren't coming back to church. So that's what we're talking about right now.
Thank you.
So the first thing I would say is that we have this online and in-person dichotomy, which I think is really unhelpful, because when, like, even the three of us gathered in this space, or anyone who's watching this as a recording, when you come to a space like this, you come with your whole self, right? I was telling before we kind of dove into content, Jeff and I were asking each other how we are. My sister is in the midst of a medical emergency, and she has the care she needs, but there's a long recovery road ahead for her, and there's some danger in the immediate future. And I don't set that aside when I come to this space, right? If you didn't have your coffee today, and you rely on that, your non-caffeinated state comes to this space. If you slept really well, or if you slept really poorly, if you are joining me from somewhere where you see sunshine and it looks like that impacts you. It looks like it's going to rain here pretty soon. That could impact you. So you bring your whole self to an experience, even your physical self, even the physical, like if you're physically uncomfortable, even in a virtual space, you bring your whole self. So that was the first thing that we really worked on in Central New York, is that it's on site or online, but it's all in person. So we need to value the in-person nature of connecting online. And when, especially, again, I go back to our friends in the disability community who said, once we all went online for COVID, CU could have included us the whole time. And so it's kind of like the argument, and I don't mean to dismiss this, people aren't coming back to church, because we want to be in community, like real living, breathing, incarnate community with each other. And I understand that. But I would say that the response to that should be relational. Like, hey, I noticed that you've been joining us online, but not back in church. Like, is everything okay? Like, is everything okay? Are Sunday mornings hard for you? Do you not have a ride? Like, we miss you. That to me is a much better approach than stopping the live stream, because, somebody may have a hip replaced and can't come to church on site for a few weeks. And having the live stream out there communicates we care about including you however we can, right? And so that would be my response to that. Is it doesn't have to be a dichotomy. Thinking about relationally how we can incorporate live streams intentionally, and that's just for the people who are already connected to you. To help us segue into YouTube here, live streaming your service is a great way to connect to people you haven't met yet. So, first things first, and Barrett, I have copious notes that I'm going to share as a PDF after this is over. So, first things first, why YouTube? Number one, YouTube has 2.7 billion monthly active users, the vast majority of whom are Gen Z and millennial. So when people are like, why aren't the young people coming to church? Thankfully now, as a millennial, I'm grateful that that's moving more toward Gen Z. I'm like, yeah, give us a break. Give us millennials a break. You've blamed us for enough. But when people say that, the first thing I think of is, what's your online presence like? If you want to meet people where they are, that's where you're going to meet them. Yeah. So YouTube at its core is a search engine with social components, not a social media network with search components. So YouTube, you probably know, is owned by Google. Google is the #1 search engine in the world. The #2 search engine in the world, YouTube. Yes. A lot of people start there to find information. And think about, like, you've probably experienced that too. Like,
you're frozen.
Oh, I'm so Barrett, it looks to me like maybe you're frozen. Yeah, I think your connection's a little weak. but the recording will be good.
Sorry about that.
So that's okay. So I built floating shelves for my kitchen. I haven't done woodworking since I was in middle school, and my shop teacher accidentally cut my final in half on the chop saw. Still bitter.
Oh.
Ouch.
Yeah. So I started on YouTube. I didn't go to Google. I went to YouTube. And so it's the second most used search engine in the world, second most visited website in the world. And when people use Google, because Google owns YouTube and its algorithm works really well with YouTube and Google prioritizes relevance, it's going to prioritize YouTube video results and sometimes even just YouTube results over other things. Another practical reason to choose YouTube is that YouTube changes its policies around live videos far less frequently than Facebook, especially when you think about Facebook policies about groups and pages. So that means you'll be able to focus more energy on connecting with your homebound worshipers, people you haven't met yet, your neighbors, and archiving your worship services without having to worry that it'll all start going away. YouTube wants your videos. That's how it makes money, is by people putting videos out there that are compelling enough for people to stick around to get ads. So YouTube isn't going to kick your videos off. I'm really not sure what is predicating this change from Facebook. But that's what I say every time there's a Facebook policy change. It seems capricious.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I'm sort of generally mad at them from a little earlier this year, and they where the CEO went on and said, "Hey, with the changing political climate, we're going to stop all fact checking,
Yeah.
and also like the community standards kind of thing." And like, wow, it's like the Titanic steering toward the iceberg.
Yeah. Excellent segue, Barrett, because one of the other reasons why I recommend YouTube is that people don't have to interact with Meta at all to access it. We know that Meta mines and sells personal data. And yes, we all we click OK that we've read the terms and conditions, but I really don't think that many of us understand the implications of that. We know that it's rife with mis and disinformation and negative psychological and mental health, more than YouTube. Certainly, YouTube is not some paragon of healthy connecting, but Meta is consistently the worst. And so it's right up there with TikTok, which, also love hate. So you don't have to engage with Meta at all to access a YouTube live video. Another benefit to that is that people don't technically have to have Facebook accounts to access your public Facebook Live videos. However, if you've ever tried to click on a live when you weren't logged in or on a different browser, it will seem like you have to sign in. You can just close that pop-up window, but it's really misleading. It really makes you think that you need an account. And so that can be a barrier for people. And then finally, live streaming to YouTube doesn't mean that you can't still include your lives on Facebook. So you can just share that link. So I know that we have people who it was a big deal for them to learn how to tune in on Facebook to watch their parish. Maybe when, snowbirds come to mind as an example, who still want to stay connected to their northern parish in the winter. That was a big thing for them to learn. And if you tell them, okay, we're going somewhere else, that may be really frustrating but they can still access it through Facebook. So they don't have to learn something new to be able to engage. Now, do I think we should be helping people learn to engage in new ways? Yeah, I think this is an important life skill, but that's, beyond the scope of today's Lunch and Learn. So that's why those are the primary reasons why I'm an advocate for parishes streaming to YouTube first or YouTube exclusively. Any wisdom in the room that you all can share?
Well, some appreciation. So I've been researching. I was so excited when I heard that this was the topic for this week, because I've been working on this already. This very thing of Facebook, YouTube, because I have gratitude because you are confirming, kind of like bullet point by bullet point, what I've been learning and thinking and wanting to communicate with others. So I so appreciate that. If I have one question that I've encountered thus far, is that the in trying to set up the YouTube live streams, our parish currently only has 24 subscribers on YouTube, and they're saying we need 50.
Yeah.
And so I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out, how can I do that? Or is there a way around that? Like in case, like if for some reason we ever fell below 50.
Right. Hold that question.
Okay.
We'll address.
Okay, cool.
JB, anything?
No, but I mean, those are all good points. I mean, just better accessibility with YouTube, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And this is anecdotal, but I also believe that the live captioning on YouTube is usually a little better than the live captioning on Facebook.
Okay.
That's totally, I have no data to support that. Totally anecdotal.
Right.
All right. So I'm gonna buzz through some things to keep in mind in setting up a parish YouTube channel, but I'm gonna preface this by saying this is the kind of thing I would love to help parishes with. It can be intimidating to think about developing new processes or using a different platform. And I love diocesan ministry because I love helping parishes not have to reinvent wheels. And so I'm happy to come to parishes. I'm happy to do this via Zoom. But these are just some quick and dirty promising practices for using YouTube as a church. So in first is setting up your channel. And if you already have a channel, thinking about how you might check your channel against these guidelines. So the first is I'm really big on making sure that everything we do in church is accidental death and dismemberment proof. And so the very first step has to be making sure that you identify at least 2 and preferably 3 or more people who are your YouTube live stream team. We never want the password and the processes to all live in one brain, right? We're asking for heartache. Barrett, I would say I love that you're doing this research, and I think a lot of times clergy are given or take on way more than they need to be able to manage. And so I think especially, I think especially if one of the people on your YouTube team is a clergy person, make sure you got a bigger team. I love for clergy to be ex officio members of teams like this, so that they know what's going on, so that they know if they meet someone new who comes to the church and they like, oh, I think you would be a great person to plug in here because I know they've been struggling with this. You're doing a few things during the live stream typically. And so being the person with the knowledge that doesn't really work. Okay, next thing is make sure you have a clear and unique name. Unique because St. John, dude, has so many churches around the globe, in this country, in the state, and even multiple churches in some of our cities, right? Dude is busy. I think St. John's, it's between St. John's and St. Paul's, but I think John's outstripping Paul. So
in our area, there's a lot of St. Mark's, because we've got I'm at St. Mark's Coldwater, we got St. Mark's Grand Rapids, we've got St. Mark's Paw Paw.
Yeah, and those are just the Episcopal St. Mark's, right? So you want, St. Mark's Episcopal Church, Coldwater, Michigan. I've tried to find like a St. John's well, it wasn't this, but I'll just use it as an example because it's in my head. Well, here we go. St. John's Lafayette. That was the parish I came up in. Do you know how many St. John's Lafayettes there are? I was St. John's Lafayette, Indiana, right?
And then there's
And so
Lafayette, Louisiana.
Yep. I'll tell you stories sometimes about when we had airports where people ended up. So it needs to be clear and clearly you, and it needs to be unique. So your name really matters. Again, we're trying to harness the power of the search engine, right? YouTube is a search engine. Next thing to think about is branding your channel. Branding your channel with your logo if you have one for your church, and if you don't have one for your church and would like one, that's something I can help with. Photos, gold standard or photos with people. Your church is beautiful. This is to anyone who might be seeing this. Your church is beautiful and it looks like 1,000 other churches. So if you want to show what your church looks like, make sure there are people in it too. Your people, here's the church and here's the steeple. Look inside at all the people. The people are the church. So always love pictures of people over pictures of buildings. And then if you have a consistent color font look that you use as part of your parish's identity, you would want to make sure that's incorporated as well. If you stick with the defaults, people are going to expect your content to be out of date and out of touch. By branding your channel, you're saying, hey, we care about how we're engaging in online spaces. We care about connecting with you. Use that about section to its fullest potential. So make sure you have a short description of your church and the quick hits, the things that people would want to know if they've never been to your church before. As somebody who has church shopped online before stepping foot in a building, I want to know where you are, when you meet, and we don't want to get too far in depth in this about section. So link me back to your website, and I hope your website tells me what I can expect when I show up. But of course, your live streams do that work for you on YouTube. But so link me to your website, your socials, but give me those where and when. Those are really, really important. Upload content that you already have. So if you don't have a YouTube channel yet, but you've been live streaming on Facebook, you've got content that you've got to get off Facebook anyways before it's gone. Go ahead and upload that to YouTube. It's an easy way to show that you have a full presence there without having to wait for that to organically build up week by week. Your YouTube account will need to be verified to live stream and or upload videos that are more than 15 minutes long. In the PDF I'll send you, I've linked to the very simple steps from YouTube, includes step-by-step instructions and a video. It's very easy, but you'll need to verify your account. And then, as Barrett rightly pointed out, to be able to live stream from a mobile device, so a phone or an iPad, you must have at least 50 subscribers. You do not have to meet that subscriber threshold to live stream from a computer. So that's a potential workaround. But if you're using I know a lot of our churches use Mevo, which is great, very user-friendly.
That's what we use.
That reads as mobile mostly.
Yeah. Okay.
And so in terms of how do we get people to subscribe, one, use your announcements time, your church, your traditional social media, and encourage your people. And especially, maybe not in writing, because it's more than most people can understand, but in front of your parish, if you have an open announcement time saying something like, hey, we're moving here so that we're more accessible. We're moving our live streams here so that we're more accessible, so that we can reach more people, so that we can show people how we love Jesus and how we love them. But in order to do that, we need your help. Subscribe, even if you don't think you will ever watch one of our videos because your butt's in a pew, you subscribing helps us spread the love of Jesus. Simple as that. And I would like to do a subscribe-a-thon. for the diocese. So I will be posting this in our communicators group probably next week, but drop your YouTube channels and let's subscribe to each other's. So that's one of the benefits of a diocese, right? Is that we can support each other in mutual ministry. So that's a great way to get subscribers as well. Before I move on to talking about live streams more specifically, any questions or anything to add here?
Barrett, you just got 2 more subscriptions
From
yours truly.
Oh,
you're up to 27 now, or 26.
There we go.
Oh my gosh, I was about to say you're halfway there, but now.
Whoa,
we're halfway there.
But you've surpassed that. You have surpassed Journey levels on your subscription needs.
That would be Bon Jovi, my millennial friend.
Oh, I thought it was Journey.
No, Journey is Don't Stop Believing.
That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
But both faith-adjacent lyrics, but you're so close. So.
I love my Gen X friends. You guys are the best.
Thank you.
All right.
We're very happy to be ignored. It's the way we prefer
it. Listen, I've been blamed for ruining the restaurant industry, not buying groceries, buying too many groceries, for ruining wine by not buying enough wine, for ruining wine by buying too much wine. Like, come on.
Yeah, seriously. It is. Yeah, it's as a Gen Xer seeing in from the outside. I remember, around the millennium when it started to be a thing, and I was like, y'all, they are not that bad. Nobody has this level of power. And when has there ever been a time in history when people were like, oh the darn kids these days, and that's when you were kids. You're not anymore. But at the time it's like, okay, they were young, and now Gen Z, they're the young ones. And okay,
and let me tell you,
know what?
Gen Z's all right. They're great, actually. I love
my
Gen
kids
Z.
are Gen Z, and when I look out at the Greta Thunbergs and the Malala Yousafzais, and then in my own kids, I'm like, y'all are the ones we've been waiting for. We had that greatest generation that did so much, from Depression, World War II, Civil Rights. Boomers set the world on fire. Gen X kind of just sat in the corner and threw spitballs. Millennials, what I think the millennials did so well is y'all did the inner work that got Gen Z ready to do the outer work.
I appreciate that recognition, because that is my
Gen
experience
Z,
as well.
All the jokes about
we became emotionally intelligent in spite.
Big time. And
in
that
spite of our boomer parents.
Millennials walk so Gen Z could run. And I look at where my kids are today and how proud I am of them. The empathy that just bleeds through their friendships naturally blows me away. We didn't have that as kids, and I'm so thankful they do. And I when I think what are the millennials responsible for killing? Bullying.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Wow, I feel so affirmed. Thank you.
There you go,
Reverend Barrett.
Well, I just did a millennial dig. I wanted to sort of balance it out with the.
All right. So when it comes to getting your ducks in a row to actually start live streaming on YouTube, here are some things to keep in mind. One, anytime you're doing something new, practice it before you rely on it. Practice it, practice it, practice it. I actually would love for people to develop internal processes on that accidental death and dismemberment proof team, and have a practice run. So I recommend that your YouTube team has a shared online workspace and a process for the following tasks each week. Number 1, writing the live stream's title and description. And I'll get more into that in a minute. This plays into using the power of the search engine. 2, what's the process for running the live stream? Who's responsible for it? Does it take more than one person each week? If so, what are the different breakdown of the tasks? If it's just one person, what is your calendaring system so that it's not the same person every week. People feel like they can go on vacation. People don't come to church when they're sick and get other people sick. So think about that. What is going to be the process for sharing it to your Facebook page if that's something you decide to do? Are you going to share it as soon as you go live? Are you going to share it later once it's a recording and encourage people to move to YouTube? Be very intentional about that. What are you going to do about monitoring comments and feedback? There are certainly times that I have posted content on YouTube and have turned off comments. A great example is I helped launch actually a really excellent podcast when I was in Central New York, and I co-hosted it with our bishop. And we had our best traction. I mean, you could find us on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all of the places where people get their podcasts, but our number one platform was YouTube. We recorded in a digital studio and it worked really well, really high quality, and would just post it on YouTube. Best platform. And we started gathering a lot of attention. Not all of it positive, right? When you have a woman who's a bishop talking about theological matters, like you're going to get some people who have not done their inner work.
Yeah. Having lived in Central New York, yes. Yep. I've
Wait, where did you live in
especially in Central New York, you're going to get that. When I was in Utica, I got interviewed by WKTV as local clergy in support of marriage equality. And boy, that comment section.
Yeah.
Boy, howdy.
So normally I kept the comments on. We have a clearly stated comment policy. The diocese also has one, which I'm happy to share with parishes. And in fact, really recommend that you have a comment policy on your socials, on your website. We do, so that when you delete things, because there will be times that you don't feed the troll, right? When you delete things, you've got that policy that's already in place to back you up. You don't have to retroactively come up with something. But one time I did turn off comments off preemptively is after, and I'm going to forget the name of it, but it was last spring, the Vatican released a report that was a long time coming. And in that report, among other things, it was very anti-trans, anti-IVF, and really, really hurtful, right? Especially, I think it came on the heels of like close to maybe someday affirming a little bit statement from Pope Francis, right? And then this report came in. And we not only love everyone, but we have a lot of trans loved ones in our denomination, and that's true of that diocese. And so we had done a response to that with one of our canons and our bishop, and kept the comments on, because everyone in that situation, we're all cis women. And we did delete a few comments because part of our comment policy is that it be a safe space for all of our loved ones to engage, and they made that space unsafe. But we also engaged with some of the comments, so that was good. But we did a part 2 to that, in which a trans priest and a trans lay person from our diocese asked to come on and talk about their experiences in church. No comments. We were very careful not to publish their last names, or I bleeped out the names of their churches and their towns. We're not doxing anyone. But their likeness, I offered to obscure their likeness, to obscure their voice. They both wanted their likeness and voice to be there. And so absolutely not, no comments. But most of the time, I think with a strong comment policy, that promising practices would dictate leave the comment on. that's where you can start to get some engagement with people who are maybe questioning or seeking. And you don't want to make it harder for them to ask vulnerable questions or to be present in a community than it already is. So have a plan with your team for monitoring comments. And then it's good practice to, like, midway through the week, reshare your video on your socials or share it for the first time if you haven't, because, you know, people who aren't accustomed, you know, thinking about people in your parish who aren't accustomed to watching the live stream may not think about it, right? If they wake up late or they're sick on Sunday morning, but reminding them that that's there as a resource can be a helpful thing. Or, you know, your godly play storyteller or Sunday school teacher might be like, hey, I'd like to hear a sermon every once in a while, right? And so posting that out in the middle of the week is a good way to remind people that they can. And then finally,
I have a question about that.
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. So how would we track the data? So right now, up to this point, we've only been using Facebook, and I track the views that we get each week. And I've got like a separate insert that I put into our parish register because the parochial reports now include online tracking.
Yeah.
And so if I was, and like we track like how many views did we get while it was live, and then I go back a week later and track how many views has it had over the course of this week. And I've got separate columns for those. If we were to like reshare it, say on Wednesday, would I then like add, like, would I go back a week after that and then add those numbers to that week? Like from the two posts together?
That is a question for the General Convention office, I think.
Okay.
And I'm happy to pose that because they're the ones that manage parochial report data.
Okay.
I will ask that. My instinct is they'll say, no, you don't go back you go from the original streaming date. But I will, let me make a note right now.
Okay. Would I still track the numbers from this, like the reshare then? Because that would be a separate post.
You'd reshare the video. And so that ultimately, if the video only lives on YouTube, all the data about who's watching it, whether they're watching it from the initial post or the reshared post, will all be together.
Okay.
That won't be separated out.
Okay.
So you would get your data. That's an important clarification. You would want to make sure your data is coming from YouTube, not from Facebook, even if you share that live to Facebook. Okay. Because the views on Facebook will populate to YouTube because it's not a Facebook originating content. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah. Does YouTube track their views in the same way?
Yeah, YouTube has really excellent analytics.
Cool. Awesome.
The 1 week clock. So, Bear, I will get back with you on that.
Thanks.
Yeah. So final thing, if you are going to make the switch to YouTube as your primary live stream location, and by that I mean that's where it goes from your Mevo or your camera, and then maybe you share it somewhere else, but that's your primary location. You need to develop a plan to communicate about the change several weeks in advance. And designate a person in that communication that people can come to if they have questions or concerns. Again, especially for our less tech inclined people in our parishes, it may feel like, oh, great, something else to learn or I'll be shut out of the community, right? And so you don't want to spring this on people. You want to help prepare them for that. And a big part of that is knowing that there is a human specifically ready to answer their questions if they have any.
Yeah.
The last thing, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just like inundating you with questions. I've been thinking about this a lot.
It's fine. Don't apologize.
Well, yeah, thanks. So if we were to do the thing where, like, if we started like live streaming to YouTube, but then share it to Facebook while we're live streaming, would that, like, for those who are already used to watching it through Facebook, like, that really wouldn't change a whole lot for them, right?
They would go to Facebook and click on the link. Let me check one thing real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain, and this is something else I'll follow up with you about. I'm fairly certain that it is no longer the case that when you share a YouTube video on Facebook that it is embedded, so that it is a viewing experience, because YouTube's a competitor, right? I'm fairly
Yeah, so they would see the link there, but it wouldn't be like you just press play and the video plays in Facebook.
right. You would click on it, it would open a new tab or window, and the video would play in YouTube.
Okay.
And I would assert that. Well, let me check on my assumption about embedding. It's been a long time since I've checked on that.
That's okay.
And I will get back to you. And when I post this recording in our communicators group on Circle and on Facebook, because we're still there, I will include the answers in the comments.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great. So want to make sure that I'm respecting your time. So just quickly, I want to talk about there are ways that you can make your YouTube presence bigger and bigger and bigger. And we can do other lunch and learns about that in terms of harnessing the power of content you already have and chopping it down into a short that then directs people to the full video. Shorts are a really great way. Shorts are YouTube's response to TikTok, the kind of continuously scrolling short form videos. They're a really great way. That's where most of our new listeners to our podcast came from, is we would post shorts that are excerpts from it that link to the full episode. And that's what drove most of our traffic there. So there are a lot of ways, and we can get into custom thumbnails for videos so that, it's not just the first thing people see is an empty church. We can get into all kinds of things. But for today, and I'm just getting a message that my connection's unstable, so I'm sorry if I freeze. But for today, I just want to talk about a really easy way to harness the search engine power of YouTube, and that's simply through your video title and description. So if you look at a lot of church live stream video titles, they're like May 25th or Sixth Sunday of Easter Year C, May 25th, or church service, right? That's not very detailed. And so we can take a cue from our evangelical siblings here, who always have spicy titles for their sermon series when they don't have to follow the lectionary and they just pick a topic instead of a text.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at, so last Sunday, the gospel was, peace I leave with you. I leave you an advocate, right, from John, when Jesus like, I'm leaving, but you get the Holy Spirit, yo. I'm leaving, but you get the Holy Spirit, yo, would actually be a better title than May 25th, right? Still not great. But like something like God advocates for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Okay, so think about the things that people might search for that would pop up with. Of, does God care about me?
Yeah.
And another thing to know about because YouTube is a search engine, it's going to prioritize local results that are good, that are relevant. So the more you can really zhuzh up the title and then the description. So your first primary audience are people you don't know. on YouTube. It really is an evangelical move, not evangelical church, but the act of being of evangelizing
Yep.
to be on YouTube, because you're putting something out into a content where people are asking questions. Like you're putting some content out that could answer their questions. So your primary audience when you're writing, especially the title, needs to be people who you don't know, people who maybe don't know what the Episcopal Church is, people who are curious, right? And so this Sunday's gospel, Jesus, what does it start
They
with?
may be
Pray
one as
not,
we are one.
yeah, and it starts with, I pray not only for these, but those who will come to believe. So, you know, right off the bat there, Jesus prayed for you. Much better title than, you know, Easter 7 year C, right? So that's your first thing to think about, are people you don't know. Your second audience is people you do know, which may be, you know, your homebound parishioners, your snowbird parishioners, people who went there as a child and are like, I wonder if St. Mark Coldwater, what they're doing. Or people like me who are looking like, sorry, my mom's texting me. Slow down. People like me sometimes who are looking for psalm recordings, like chanted psalms. It would be so helpful. Like I grab psalm recordings from St. John the Divine all the time. Do you know why? Because in the description of their videos, they list the readings for the week. So I know if I'm looking for Psalm 19, that I can look for Psalm 19 Episcopal service, and that way I don't have to go back and look at the lectionary, right? And be like, wait, when would this have been? All right, now I've got to go find their videos from 2002, and it would have been, I guess it would have been July 27th that year, right? And so, but now I'm watching St. John the Divine service from 3 years ago because it's good and I'm there, right? So I love a description that lists, that starts with, welcome to our worship space and worship service. We believe you're here with your whole person and we honor you here. We're so glad you're worshiping with us. Today's readings are, list them. In the sermon, we're going to look at the question, what does it mean that Jesus prayed that we would believe? What does that mean? Something as simple as that, instead of just Reverend Barrett, preacher, right? I'm sure you're a great preacher, Barrett, and I would love to hear you preach. And if I am searching for a church service, that does nothing for me, right? And so using your video titles and the descriptions of that you can put on the videos is a really powerful way to use the search function. And that's why when I was talking about preparing to live stream, part of the process should be, don't make somebody figure that out on their phone Sunday morning, right? Like, oh, what are the readings today? I'm going to try and put that all in. Have that done earlier in the week in a Google Doc that you can grab, copy, and paste to make Sundays easier or whenever you're streaming. So we're a little over time. Thank you for your patience.
That's okay. So this was actually what I was going to be working on today anyway. So now I just get to do it with friends. So
cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, the timing was absolutely perfect, because this is one of my big projects for today. So yeah, I'm going to continue working on it. So if you want to keep hanging out, I'm cool.
Well, I mean, we probably should record our hangouts. But I'm really glad that you were here. I'm glad that this was helpful. And I'll say again, whether for you, Barrett, or any of our other parishes, I'm always happy to come talk to congregations on site or online, but to your specific situation. Happy to come look at your specific equipment and help you, because that's my job, right? Is to help make ministry go smoothly across for our parishes. So
yeah, okay.
I'm glad you were here.
I'm glad
JB,
you're here too. This was so great. It confirmed so much that I've been researching already. and and some of the new info, like about the live streaming from laptops instead of phones, although it's not an option for us because we use the Mevo Cam. So
Yeah, Mevo's a great option. It's so simple to use. So I'm glad it's helpful. If you come up with any more questions for you or anyone watching the live, Rachel, Rachel, at greatlakesepiscopal.org. My direct line, my direct work line is 616-616-3430. So the 616 happens twice. It's a little confusing. But and always thrilled. My favorite part of my job is when I get to work directly with parishes. So
cool.
So yeah, thanks for hanging
All right.
out.
Well,
I'll
thanks
see
for
you
doing
soon.
this. This was fantastic. I look forward to it.
Thanks. Bye, Barrett.
Okay. Don't forget to be awesome.
You too.